First, let me apologize for my lack of Japanese lesson uploads recently. But actually, I'm still a learner myself, and it takes a great deal of energy and research before I'll commit anything to paper in regards to tutorials. I want to be 100% sure of my work before I upload anything, and there's a surprising lack of good study materials online, which is why I started this video series in the first place. Okay then. Needing Part 2. Iru, to need. Not to be confused with another verb, iru, to be, of animate objects, or iru, to enter into, or iru, to roast, broil, or parch, or iru, to shoot an arrow or throw a dart. Japanese is a fun language, isn't it? The kanji looks like this. Same as the last half of hitsuyo, the other Japanese needing word. Although you'll rarely see the kanji used. People usually spell this using hiragana only, so good luck using chat messengers with a Japanese person. On a brighter note, this is easier than my last needing video because it really only works with nouns. So with that said, allow me to start first by addressing verbs. It's really unnatural to pair this needing word with other verbs. Although, you could theoretically fuse this with verbs by using koto, and it might not break any grammatical rules, but I've been told many times that it just sounds really awkward, and you're not going to see it used in that manner, so in those cases where you need to express a need-to-verb idea, check out my Needing Part 1 video. But I should mention a few exceptions that I've seen used around, such as shimpai iranai, or shimpai wa iranai, which means no need to worry. It's sort of a one-off expression. In this case, because the word shimpai is both a noun and what's known as a suru verb, it works. It's common enough that it's worth a mention so I don't come off as some sort of liar should you encounter it somewhere. Nouns. Here are a few examples to better understand the difference between positive and negative usage. 私はこれがいります. I need this. Or if you want to be more casual, you could also say 私はこれがいる. I need this. The meaning is exactly the same. The only difference here is that the mas form is polite. For a further explanation of how Japanese verbs work, please watch my verbs and mas form video. And it should be stated, because you will encounter this everywhere, that if you want to be super casual, you could omit subject, that is the watashi wa portion of the sentence, and just say これがいる. I need this. Or another example would be like お金がいる. I need money. Okay. If you omit subject, then how do we know who needs the money? Well, it's provided by the context of the conversation, which is exactly why translation machines fail so miserably with the Japanese language. Negative examples. 私は昼ご飯はいりません. I don't need lunch. Or super casual, 昼ご飯はいらない. Note: negative is usually accompanied by the wa particle. I'm planning on explaining this in greater detail at some point, but for now let me just say that, in this case, it sounds more natural to a Japanese listener to use something wa, negative need, in a statement. Because you're saying don't need noun, wa makes the nuance more matter-of-fact. So for noun plus negative need, choose wa over ga. Now, of course, there are always exceptions, but in any event, just keep ga positive and wa negative in mind as a rule of thumb. Try not to overthink it, just use it. Also be warned, you might even see some people omit particles altogether and just use something like 昼ご飯いらない. So, have fun deciphering that. How to turn statements into questions. It's as easy as dropping the watashi wa portion of the sentence and adding the word ka to the end of it. Ka is the question particle. It simply lets Japanese listeners know that you're asking a question. For example, あなたはこれがいりますか? Do you need this? You'll want to use ga when a need is somewhat ambiguous. So, for example, asking a question. The need for something will be unknown, so default to ga. In the case of asking about things, I recommend defaulting to the mas form because it's more polite. You don't have to, but if you don't already know this, Japanese culture in general is obsessed with politeness. So it's a safer default position for making new friends. Also, anata wa can be dropped if the target of the question is clear. Since I mentioned that there are exceptions to the ga-wa thing, let me just give a quick example of wa usage so you can get somewhat of an idea of what that will look like. レシートはいりますか? Do you need a receipt? Because the word receipt is the topic of this sentence, you'd use wa. But if you expand this sentence to be more specific and include you, then it would be you that becomes the topic of the question, and the receipt that becomes the subject. あなたはレシートがいりますか? As you can see, it's all very confusing. It's often difficult to know when it's appropriate to bend the rules, which is why I and most people I interact with just assume that a person is the topic, and that's why the object in question usually takes the ga particle. I imagine that many people out there probably find this all very lols-worthy, which is why I said, don't overthink it, because you'll go mad. Just follow the guidelines that I laid out, and you'll be safe 99% of the time. One last important note about the iru verb. As I've already explained a bit, in Japanese it's common to omit most of what we English speakers would consider crucial to a sentence. It's also common in many circumstances to use a verb conjugation to reply to a question. For example, you'll find in many situations where the "do you need something" question is asked, you'll hear iranai, where in English it's customary to use a simple no. Do you want a cup of tea? Iranai. So keep an eye out for that as well. The wa particle. Now, if I may, I want to quickly touch on something that's been throwing a few people off. Wa, the particle wa, watashi wa. The wa is written as the hiragana character ha. Why is that? How is this different from the other hiragana wa character? Okay, please allow me to explain. And I should apologize for not explaining this sooner. Certain particles in Japanese change their pronunciation depending on usage as a particle or as an ordinary pronunciation character. Such is the case with ha as wa, and also he as e. Just another fun quirk of Japanese. I meant to make a video dedicated to the wa particle long ago. I know that I've mentioned it briefly in footnotes in other Japanese videos I've made, but I just haven't come up with anything yet that I feel gets the basic idea across in as simple, straightforward manner as I would really like. So if you're familiar with hiragana, then you probably already know that this character is wa, and this is ha, which is 100% correct. The only exception to this is when this character, the ha character, is acting as a particle, which is to say, when it's serving a function as its own kind of word, known as the topic marker. For English phonetic purposes, it's always written as wa, W-A, wa. The wa is serving a grammatical function here. It's letting you know that whatever is before it is what the sentence is about. It's the topic. Why they use ha instead of the wa character is anyone's guess. Some linguist in Japan somewhere a long time ago probably decided that, so I have yet to find a satisfying answer as to why they chose to do that, because as you may already know, in all other circumstances, ha is pronounced ha, like ha ha ha, Although some Japanese will use the wa character sometimes incorrectly on purpose, like we might write though, tho instead of though, to be slangy. If someone is using proper Japanese, they should use a comma with wa to indicate that this ha is a wa, such as watashi wa. Unfortunately, you won't always see commas being used, but at some point in your interactions with Japanese in text form, you'll eventually develop a sensitivity for when ha is ha or when ha is wa. That concludes this lesson. I hope that any part of this video has helped someone in some way, and thank you for watching.